In this short video, I want to discuss some themes in Pericles, Shakespeare's Pericles, some ideas to pursue if you were to write a theme, and these are student supplied. And here's a student that has thought of the theme about the shields. When the shields were presented before the tournament, presented to Thaisa, and she presents them to Simonides, her father. And Simonides interprets the shields. And so the shields have a motto on them, plus a graphic, an icon, a picture, something. And and the student says here, her theme, the theme is going to be the significance and meaning of the shields presented by the knights to Princess Thaisa before the tournament to win her hand in marriage. And you know what? I like what this is, where this is going, because this displays to me that this student is willing to have a focus on some minor event in the play. It's just very hard to write about everything in the play. But if you can find one strand of content or symbols or one aspect of the play and develop it, analyze it, and then from what you find of that, apply it to Pericles as a whole, but you refuse to look at every line in the play. Well, that's a good focus. Okay, the thing about this is much more of an historical analysis than a literary one. Now, I need to tell you this: professionally, this is fully acceptable. In fact, these things go in waves, and it's been for the last I would say 15-20 years that historical connections, material connections to literary work has been much more favorably received than just the pure literary analysis. I'm basically saying if C.S. Lewis were alive today and had written today, he would not be known for the English scholar he was. He's lost his audience. We don't assess data that way anymore. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. As a whole, our culture seems to privilege empirical data and quasi-scientific warrants and that sort of thing, and they don't really hold personal reflections and values to be worth much in a public discourse, and that's perhaps to our shame. But I do believe that C.S. Lewis has lost his audience as an English scholar. He primarily now is being known for his fiction writing, right? And among Christian circles, he still maintains his worth, but because we're a different audience and we're approaching him for different reasons. And I digress. But this is much more of an historical analysis, which is fine. But part of what I wanted to do with this assignment is make sure, let's stick with the literary analysis, which is just anything between the covers of the text, because that's a whole different way of thinking, and it's a different type of writing. So it's going to stretch you a little bit more. And see, and I'm impressed by this proposal, because this student has really, thought about these things. But in order to do it right, and she admits it, she says, I'm going to have to find out more about what they actually did in this time, how they interpreted it, what it meant, what was the practice of iconography. That's really where you're headed. And I tell you what, I've done work on iconography and published work on it, and the work on that stuff is just, poof, it's huge. It's huge. So you're set for a big task. But you know what? Professionally, this is viable. I would suggest something though, and this you can kind of tweak this proposal and have it stay within the boundaries of the text. And what I mean by that is basically, can you come up with an observation and analysis, a thesis that can be supported fully and unpacked fully only from the data that's in the text. And that's how I distinguish a literary analysis from an historical one that uses literary artifacts. So, here's my suggestion to you. When the knights come to present their icons, obviously, right, just reading the text, you understand that the knight is using the shield to represent himself. And that there's a message on the shield. You don't even have to know the language to get it, because Shakespeare translates it for you via Simonides. So you know that the knights are like, representing themselves by this one word, truism or aphorism or whatever, and a little picture of an icon on it. You don't have to know the historical data to just get that. But let me ask you this. Why doesn't Simonides himself just look at the shield and read it? Why is it always in Shakespeare, in this play, that Thaisa has to extend herself, get the actual words and the picture, and bring it back to Simonides? And tell Simonides, and it's Simonides who sits back as if he closes his eyes and just translates it and then gives the meaning. What can you argue that prefigures that happens right here? Our eyes go out and get the data and bring it back in and give it to our minds, and our minds come up with the translation, the interpretation. So you might want to use that to say that Thaisa and Simonides are being represented here as a one unit cognitive person. Thaisa goes out, brings back the data, Simonides, and thus you can make the argument that the two people are really one. It's a communal self. And the idea of a communal self plays out in this book. Okay, it plays out in the relationship Pericles and Thaisa and Marina have. It plays out in the relationship Thaisa and Simonides have. It plays out in the relationship that Antiochus and his daughter have. That's one reason it was a very much taboo, incest, is that you are not extending your own self to become a communal self with the community. I'll talk more about that in a bit, but I think using the shields to pursue that idea will allow you to stay within the titles. The covers of the book of the play. So something to think about.